Hi, it's Dan. This video is going to talk about adding and subtracting signed numbers or integers. And so there are some rules just for adding and subtracting integers. And they're different rules than those for multiplying integers. So if you need multiplication and division of integers, that's a different video. If you look on the site, there's a different video for that. So let's talk about adding and subtracting integers. Now the first rule is very simple. If the signs are alike, you're just going to keep that same sign. In other words, you're going to do the addition and then just keep that sign. So for example, up here, number one, notice that we have -3 plus -6. Those numbers are both negative, so those signs are alike. So we're just going to add 3 and 6. 3 plus 6 is 9, and then we're going to keep the same sign that's in the problem, negative. So the final answer is negative. 3 plus 6, those are both positive, so those signs are alike. So the answer is going to be +9. Notice number 3 here. Again, the signs are alike. We have -4 plus -10. They're both negative. That we would say the signs are alike. So you keep that same sign. So the answer is going to be negative. So a negative plus a negative is going to be a negative. A positive plus a positive is going to be positive, like down here, 5 plus 4 is 9. Now, the rules for when the signs are different is a little bit more complicated. So let me make up some problems like that. So when the signs are different, it's a little bit of a process. And so I think this is the hardest part. I know high school students that still have trouble with signed numbers, and this lesson is really designed for 6th or 7th graders, but there are high school students that need to watch this video because they still have trouble with adding and subtracting integers. So let me make up a couple of problems here. I'll do about 3. So let's see, I'm going to do addition first, and then we'll handle subtraction. So I'm putting these in a little different order each time and a different magnitude. Let's do 2 problems to begin with. Okay, so first of all, let's consider -10 plus 3. So notice the signs are different here. So the first thing I want us to do is assign the sign. Is this going to be positive or is this going to be negative? Let's handle that right up front. And so what you do is you pick the sign of the bigger number, not paying any attention to their signs. We call that absolute value. So the absolute value of -10 is 10, and the absolute value of 3 is 3. So which one is bigger, 10 or 3? I think I heard you say 10. So you're right. 10 is bigger than 3. And notice the 10 in this problem has a negative by it, so we know our final answer is going to be negative. I'm going to put a little negative right there, okay? So I determined the sign at the very beginning. And because 10 is bigger than 3, I picked negative. So you pick the sign of the bigger number, the larger number. And then the next thing you do is write down that absolute value stuff that we just did. So the absolute value of -10 is 10. The absolute value of 3 is 3. And then you take these numbers right here and you just subtract them like you normally would. Bigger number minus the smaller number. That's 7. So my answer is -7. So let's just rehearse that process. So the first thing we do is we pick the sign. Is it going to be positive or negative? And then the next thing you do is you take the absolute value of both of the numbers and then subtract them like you normally would, the bigger number minus the smaller number. And then you assign that number with its sign. So -10 plus 3 is -7. Now sometimes I talk about this with students because those are the rules, and that's how you do it, by the rules. But a lot of times when I'm talking to students, they really struggle with understanding, if it's addition, why did we subtract? That's a good question. I think another way to understand this is just to think about these values as money. And a -10 would be like somebody taking $10 from you. And a +3 would be as if someone gave you $3. So if somebody took $10 from you, you're $10 in the hole. You're $10 to the bad. $10 that you don't have. They stole $10 from you. And then they gave you, They had a change of heart and they gave you $3 back. Well, you wouldn't be even yet. You wouldn't be at zero. You would still be $7 in the hole, right? They took 10 from you. They gave you 3 back. They still owe you $7. Negative 7 represents that. It's another way of thinking about it. Now let's consider this one down here. So first of all, which number's bigger, 8 or 12? Because we're thinking about these without their signs. Without their signs. We're thinking about the absolute value. Which one's bigger, 8 or 12? I think you would say 12, and you're right. And notice the 12 is positive, so I'm going to put a positive here just so I know the final answer on this is going to be positive. And now what I want to do is do the absolute value of each one of these. And so the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. And the absolute value of 12 is 12. The absolute value, when we say absolute value, we're talking about the positive value of the number. So the absolute value of a positive number is a positive number, and the absolute value of a negative number is the positive of that number. Technically, absolute value is a number's distance from 0. So negative 8 is 8 spaces away from 0. And 12 is 12 spaces away from 0. So technically, that's how you do it. So next on the order here is to take 12 and subtract 8, because you always just do the larger one minus the smallest one. So 12 minus 8 is 4. And so this answer is going to be positive 4. Negative 8 plus 12 is positive 4. So this is how you add integers when the signs are different. So the last thing we need to talk about, though, is how do you subtract integers? How do you subtract integers? So let me draw one up like that. And this one's crazy. There's a lot of negatives here. So negative 8 minus negative 5. So the way you do subtraction is you change it to an addition problem, and then you use the addition rules that we just talked about. So notice, here's how you do that. You write the first number down just like it is, so you keep that same number, and then you change the subtraction to addition, and you write the opposite of the second number. You keep this and you click. I was helping a student the other day, and the teacher said, keep, click, KCC. Keep, click. So you keep this number, but you click this to addition and you click that to addition. So you change the subtraction problem to an addition problem. So you really don't have to have new rules for subtraction other than KCC. Keep, click. So here's what I'm saying. I'm saying in order to do a subtraction problem, all you do is change it to an addition problem using this, and then follow the addition rules where, look, the signs are different. So I'm going to take the absolute value of negative 8, that's 8, and the absolute value of 5, that's 5. Which one's bigger, 8 or 5? Well, 8 is bigger. Notice 8 is negative, so I'm going to put a negative here. And then I come down here and do this subtraction right here. 8 minus 5 is 3. So this is negative 3. It also makes sense this way. Think about it. If somebody took $8 from you and then they gave you 5 back, they still owe you 3. You're still 3 to the bad. And so this is the way to understand adding and subtracting integers. Now I realize I've done this pretty quickly, so if you need to show this video again and look at these rules and contemplate them, it's going to help you be able to add and subtract integers. And so if you're taking a test on multiplication and division of integers, I recommend that you do the multiplication and division first, because those rules are easier, and then go through the addition and the subtraction problems following these rules. And maybe when you first get your test, you should write down the multiplication and the division rules at the top, and maybe even put subtraction KCC, keep, click, so that you'll know to change the subtraction problems to addition. What you really need to focus on is those addition rules, because I think they're the hardest, especially the rules for addition when the signs are different. You have a good one.